So the Premier League season is now over and Manchester City have won the league title. The title race that the entire world was watching has gone in favor of Manchester City. But at the same time, Liverpool deserved to win the Premier League title ahead of Manchester City. I have got some incidents for you, I've got some facts for you, I've got some logics for you behind this argument that Liverpool should have won the league title ahead of Manchester City. So let's see how Liverpool were robbed of the Premier League title by incidents beyond their control. Now we have all witnessed this tremendous neck-to-neck title race exactly like we had in the 2018-19 season, when going into the last day, Manchester City were leading Liverpool by one single point. And even in that scenario, on the final day, Liverpool were playing Wolves at home, requiring a win at home and Man City to drop points. It didn't happen that year, it didn't happen this year. But there is a lot of difference between the 18-19 season and the 21-22 season. Now don't get me wrong, Manchester City are a tremendously talented team with a brilliant manager and a style of play that ultimately breaks teams down. But having said that, at the same time, this season Liverpool deserved the Premier League title more than Manchester City. If I ask you one thing, what was the final difference between the two teams? One single point. Not much in terms of goal difference, not much in terms of goals scored. They were actually level on goals conceded in the final standing. So the telling factor was one single point. Now to understand how Liverpool were robbed of this Premier League title, you need to understand where that 1 point difference came from. I will take you back to 11th of December when Manchester City were playing Wolves at home. Despite a red card for Raul Jimenez, Wolves were actually pretty comfortable and holding out for a draw. Remember that handball that was given against João Moutinho when the ball clearly struck him in his ribs, in the side of his ribs. But the VAR ruled it as a handball and a penalty was awarded to Man City, and based on that penalty, City went on to win that game 1-0. And that was actually the time when Wolves were really strong in terms of the defense, and especially away from home they were having a really good time. So instead of 1 point, Man City that day got all 3 points. 1 week later, on 19th December, a COVID-struck Liverpool went to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to play a very difficult away fixture against Antonio Conte's rising Spurs. In the opening 20 minutes of the game, Liverpool started really well. And then you have to remember the challenge by Harry Kane on Andy Robertson. Two-footed lunge, body out of control, direct red card. But not even a yellow card was issued to Harry Kane. That could have been a leg breaker for Andy Robertson, but Harry Kane got away with that. A big decision went against Liverpool. At the other end, Diogo Jota was clearly shoved in the back in the penalty box. It was a clear and obvious error. Paul Tierney, the on-field official that day, failed to recognize the event. VAR Chris Kavanagh failed to recognize the event, and a clear penalty was denied to Liverpool. In the very same game, later on in the second half, Andy Robertson got a red card. Now I will not complain about that. That was a direct red card. I can understand why the referees gave that. But if Andy Robertson's challenge on Emerson Royal was a direct red card, then what about the Harry Kane two-footed lunge on the very same player, Andy Robertson, in the first half? This is where inconsistency of the officials cost Liverpool 2 points that day. Instead of getting 3 points, Liverpool got 1. But that was not it. On 26th of February 2022, Man City went to play Everton in the city of Liverpool at Goodison Park. 80 minutes plus and the game was still in a deadlock. A mistake by Michael Keane allowed Phil Foden to score and give City the lead. However, later on in that game, towards the final whistle, there was a clear handball by Rodri in the penalty box. It should have been a penalty to Everton. The officials later on apologized for their terrible mistake by not awarding a penalty against Man City, where Man City should have dropped 2 points. How many they ended up getting? 3 points. In this way, Manchester City have had all the VAR and refereeing calls go directly in their favor. Very rarely would you see a referee call going against Man City. In the incidents I've just mentioned, Man City directly gained 4 points from the Wolves game at home and Everton away, when actually they should have got 2. And Liverpool missed out on 2 points at Tottenham Hotspur. So by the virtue of these 3 incidents alone, there was a 6 points swing in favor of Man City, and it is all down to bad refereeing calls. There was a lot of talk in the media. Every football analyst said those were terrible decisions. But 2 months later, everybody was eulogizing about Man City's play and how good they are. But we forgot about these incidents, which were ultimately a telling factor in the final points table. Now, people will also point to Liverpool dropping points at home to Tottenham, or the likes of Brighton and Leicester away. Yes, Liverpool dropped points as well, and that might have proven costly as well. But the fact is, if Liverpool dropped points in their games, they were also clearly not on the right end of the refereeing calls at the same time, and both were equal determinators in the final standing. If these terrible refereeing calls were corrected, Liverpool would have won the league by 4 points. They were that better off Manchester City. And I'm not saying that Liverpool never got a rub of the green when it comes to VAR decisions. The only incident when I can say that Liverpool got a favourable decision from the referees was the game at Crystal Palace in the final week of January, when at Selhurst Park, Liverpool got a dodgy penalty after a foul on Diogo Jota in the Crystal Palace penalty box. Now, Liverpool converted that penalty and won the game 3-1. But I'm not counting this incident because Liverpool were already leading 2-1 by that stage, and the game was in the final moments already, and Liverpool were managing the game pretty well. And don't forget, in the penultimate game of the season when Liverpool were away to Southampton, the opening goal for the Saints clearly came off a foul on Diogo Jota by Lianco, Southampton defender, and the ball went to the other end and Southampton scored. It should have been reversed, but it wasn't. Thankfully, it didn't cost Liverpool anything that day. Even on the penultimate day against Southampton, Liverpool made 9 changes and still bossed the game and managed to win quite comfortably. That tells you how strong the Liverpool squad was this season, and it was much better than Man City, who couldn't afford to make 9 changes and win so convincingly. The referees are humans too, and when they hear about Man City's brilliance and various ex-players and pundits eulogizing about their style of play, they do get affected. That's human psychology, and that ultimately benefits Man City in terms of refereeing decisions. Now, Pep Guardiola is a brilliant manager. He's smart too. He played this narrative of Liverpool as the favourites of the entire country and everybody wanting Liverpool to win the title. However, he was himself very vocal about Manchester United fans wanting City to win the title ahead of Liverpool. He even invited them to the title party later on. And you must have seen on the final day at Anfield, even the Wolves fans were cheering for City's goals. So when Pep says that Liverpool were favourites of everyone else, it is clearly a narrative that ultimately benefits Man City. Now, please do not get me wrong. I'm not blaming Manchester City. City are a brilliant team, as I said before. They did what they had to do to win the title. All I'm saying is that the best league in the world should not be decided by bad refereeing calls. And it's a bitter truth that this year's title race has been decided by bad refereeing calls. I refer again back to the Liverpool-Tottenham game, the Man City-Wolves game, the Everton-Man City game. These are big moments in the season. They are equally as vital as last minute goals and comebacks and dropped points. when each and every point matters to the utmost level, a 4-point swing by bad refereeing calls is too much to take. Because I'm saying it time and time again, this season 4 points, minimum 4 points were swung in favor of Man City by bad referee calls. It is very harsh. It is very harsh on a Liverpool team that is fighting on 4 fronts. Their immense hard work to earn each and every point has come to a disheartening conclusion in terms of the Premier League. That is very hard to take. And if you look at the bigger picture, this title would have been a huge part of the quadruple hopes for the season. Liverpool having already bagged 2 trophies, this could have been and should have been the 3rd trophy in the bag. No other team has even come close to attaining this feat, and Liverpool looked all set to achieve this feat but for bad refereeing calls. This Liverpool team, the class of 2021-22, is a historic group and they deserved to make history. But as I said at the beginning of the program, they have got robbed big time. The manager and the players won't say that. They can't say that. But we as football writers and journalists and fans can properly say that Liverpool have got robbed of the Premier League title. And not to mention, Liverpool were made to play every 3 days for the last month and a half. Early kickoffs on Saturday, having played Champions League games in the midweek. And most of the time, it was Liverpool who were made to play ahead of Man City in the title run-in. Now, some people may say that is an advantage, but it gives you less recovery time as well. And the telling factor was the Tottenham game at Anfield. Now, Liverpool have got robbed, but all we can say to Liverpool is walk on, and walk on. What is your opinion on all this? You must write to us and share your feedback in the comment section below. If you like the video, do share and subscribe to the channel for more such informative videos. Thanks for watching.